The biggest shift that I normally make with someone when I first work with somebody is I help them understand the importance of getting paid for what you know, not for what you do.
Mm.
So many of us have a tie to a work ethic. We were raised by parents or a grandfather or somebody a teacher that taught us how important work ethic was, and we've tied our identity through our work, to busyness. And
Mm.
there's a big shift that happens in your life where people call you up for what you know, not for the services that you provide for them. You move into more of a director manager role.
Bootstrapped unicorns, welcome back. I have an awesome special episode with a good friend of mine that you should know, but you probably don't yet, and we're going to introduce you right now. So, Terry his name is Terry Weaver, by the way. He is one of those unique personalities where he has, in truth, I believe here, he's got an opinion about everything because he's a well-reasoned and very thoughtful human. He's spent time thinking about and or researching the thing that you're thinking about right now. And what that gives me in every conversation is a perspective that I hadn't been ready for and always makes me a better person. He's a business coach because he's wired to be a business coach and help people. And I know the people that hang out with him are always better for it as well. So today, I know I have the privilege of getting better today than I was yesterday because I'm going to be in the presence of greatness, and so will you. Without further ado, and I hope I haven't embellished your existence too much, Terry, welcome, man.
I'm trying to figure out how much I know. I don't know that I know as much as you think I know.
It never ceases to amaze me, though, because we'll get into a conversation, and then suddenly you've got something that directly connects to it. And you're a great conversationalist, but you usually have something that up levels the conversation in a way that I couldn't have predicted. For instance, I now know that you hate the show name, Bootstrapped Unicorns, and you've done deep
I love half of the show name.
Half of the show name. And you have deep research on the other half. Or I'm sorry, on the first half, not the half that you hate, but the half that you love. And so if you wouldn't mind, can we start there?
I'll go right for it. And it's not that I hate the name. It's that I hate the mindset of bootstrapping.
Okay, go.
Because I think it's the biggest roadblock to success for most entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Is the fear to actually invest in themselves and to invest in the help they need. There's such a... you deal with it. You deal with people in video, and everybody's like, oh, man, everybody's got a camera and on a phone. It's like, no. For me, I know, I've got to outsource stuff because I know how valuable my time is.
Right.
And by bootstrapping for too long, and obviously, when you first start, man, you got to be frugal. And, I think if there's anything Dave Ramsey has done as a disservice to the world, is we have embraced a scarcity mindset around money.
Oh my God, you so preach thank you. Go. Amen, brother.
And hey dude, I'm all about understanding the money is a finite resource, but also your ability to create more of it is infinite. And
yes.
Time is the only thing and Lee Cockrell, who we both know.
Yep.
Dan Miller came and spoke at the thing, or Dan Cockrell. I'm thinking about Dan Miller, who's just passed away.
I knew you were. That makes sense.
But Dan Cockrell spoke at the thing the day after he had quit working for the Walt Disney Company, and I remember him sharing one of his dad's quotes that money comes and goes, but time just goes.
What a great quote.
And I think that there's some of this part of entrepreneurs that are built into our DNA, that we tend to lean too heavily on, even the term solopreneur or the term self-made. I know zero humans that are self-made.
I know. What a trap with that term, isn't it?
Right. I know zero humans that didn't have somebody else making a sacrifice or pouring into their life. And so
We don't even start
you know,
life self-made. Two people
right.
made us,
There are
one
two
mom
people.
incubated us, and then
Right.
we had to get raised for how long till we could figure out how to feed ourselves?
Right. And some of us still haven't figured that out, right?
No kidding.
And so, I think being frugal and being smart, but I think bootstrapping has a hard set of limitations, especially
Yeah.
when it becomes our mindset that we tend to fear to get help, to get coaching, to hire service providers, to outsource things that are, I started outsourcing with my lawn. That's the first place you normally start,
Yeah.
right? And it used to pain me to listen to somebody else mow my yard because I would begin to think about like, oh man, like that's money, and I could be doing so much with that money. And then I realized how much more valuable my time was than you live in Florida. Your grass is green, and then it gets so hot it dies.
Right.
Unless
Yep.
you're one of the crow's crazy Floridians that water their lawn.
Nah, I
Why
don't
would you
care.
do that? Yeah, like, and so I think it's one of those things that it's like I think we have to be really aware. And as you know, the older you get, the more you are aware, and the more people you begin to know. We just had the Grammy Awards. I remember as a kid watching the Grammy Awards and going, I know none of these people. And I watched, the Grammy Awards in memorandum, and it was like, sure, there was Tony Bennett, but there was also Jimmy Buffett, and there was younger people who I knew who they were. And I was like, okay, yeah, we're starting to get to the age
Yep.
where you start to know all these people, and you've been to these people's concerts, and I think as you see, the only reality that we all have in common is we're all going to die.
Right.
And so, because of that, I think we have to be really well aware of our time limitations.
Right. And that's
And
why
when
bootstrapping is so challenging for you then.
yes,
Yeah. Can I tell you
yeah,
where I had my mind when using that word?
and I'm sure it wasn't in a limited money mindset because I know that's not a problem you have.
I think we all share as entrepreneurs the fact that we did have a 0 point. And there's
Right.
the fact that you've got the moxie to say to yourself, I can try this, I can do this, is a wonderful and fascinating thing. And if nothing else, even if somebody had to go out and get $1 billion of financing on day 2, on day 1 they were bootstrapping it until they ran into that amazing
Absolutely.
windfall. And so I think the goal being that we have a unicorn of a business and we grow a unicorn that is the undeniable, wonderful unicorn of an industry. That's the goal, but we all also started from the same 0 point in some spiritual
Absolutely.
sense. And so that's what
And
I
I'm
like about the term. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that if you try to live a long-term embrace of the term bootstrapping, that you're missing the boat.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you need to go out and get investors and get on Shark Tank and sell your company for pieces.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's a route that that's a route that more businesses should not do. In
Yeah.
fact, half the time when the business is on Shark Tank, they're trying to get money from the Shark Tank because they don't have a real business yet. And so, I have no problem with being frugal and being smart, but there comes a time when there are these words like hustle and
Grind.
busy that we've so become so comfortable with that they become limitations.
Yeah.
We create an unnecessarily ceiling to our own success.
Yeah. Well, and I celebrated the day Gary Vaynerchuk abandoned the term hustle. Because it was driving me crazy. One, I appreciate his content. I enjoy it. And I think he makes amazing points when you dig into what he likes to talk about and the encouragement he likes to give people. But hustle was being so abused that I think there were people being harmed by a fascination with that term.
Yep. And I've always said, Ben, hustle is a way of season, is a season, not a way of life.
Right.
Hustle is not meant to be. There are times for seasons of hustle. You release a new product. You're in retail and it's Christmas time. You've got a Black Friday offer to get out. You've got, different things. There are different times when the cycle of work has to ramp up, and you may have to work a Saturday, you may have to work late when you've got healthier boundaries on a normal basis. And I think most of us got into entrepreneurship on some level, decided to be a bootstrap unicorn, as you say, because we wanted the time freedom.
Right.
What a lot of us fall into the trap of, we are a worse boss than any of us could have ever had.
Yep.
And we end up working more for less because of an unhealthy mindset around work and around boundaries and around balance and around getting help and admitting that we need help and admitting we can't do it alone.
I think that admitting it is a hard one, and not even necessarily admitting that you need help. I think there's a lot of solopreneurs or hustlers or whatever you want to call it. They know it, and when cornered, they would say they need help, but they're petrified to accept it or let's say delegate, because now they've got a new expense that they're unwilling to pay for, because I don't think they're ready to believe that new expense will actually in turn flip around and make them money over time. I mean, the new expense instantly is taking money out of your pocket. You feel that day one, and then you got to wait to make it work. And I think it's terrifying for a lot of the, we'll call them small guys for lack of a better description, as they're trying to figure their way.
Yeah, and there's making sure you've aligned your business with your life.
Yeah.
And that you've aligned your business with the goals that you actually have for your life. So that that your business is serving you, not the other way around. And,
totally.
In reality, a lot of us get into those traps, and we found ourselves where, like, wow, I got into this with a really specific mission and purpose, and now we've drifted way far away from that.
Yeah. So I know you're a coach. In fact, actually, we were a few minutes behind on starting this because you were in a crisis counseling moment with one of your coachees, who, my impression, Terry, is that most of your clientele are entrepreneurs on some level. And I know from being a guest and a speaker at your annual events called The Thing. So the audience, if you're unaware, Terry does this amazing 3, 4, 5 day long event. And I say it that way because 3 days is like the low tier, but you got all sorts of VIP levels that you can participate in. But it's an amazing event full of inspiration and fun and knowledge and wisdom and all of the things that you need, at least on an annual basis, but probably more, to become a better entrepreneur and a better human. And this is year 5, 6, 7. How many years have you done it?
Started in 2017 was the very first one.
Wow. So you're deep. You're going into year 7 now. That's wonderful. But so he does all of this stuff, and it's positively affecting people who are entrepreneurs of all sizes. And can you help me understand for a second here? Because I know a ton of the people you coach, and a lot of them seem like they're solopreneurs, although I don't know that they all are. And I'm curious, like, when you're coaching for your own practice, is that the person you're serving the best? And what do you focus on? How are you helping these cool people with great, business ideas and services thrive?
Yeah, and I'm in a shifting phase right now where my products are designed to serve people who are in the earlier phases. Typically, they're
okay.
At the, but my one-on-one time is really served best with someone who's looking for an up level.
Okay.
Someone who's looking to, get unstuck. I end up helping a lot of people. I don't know that I've like put out a bait to catch these people. I probably have and not known what it is. Sometimes I wish I could. If I did, I'd probably go get it out of the water. But I end up helping a lot of people who have built a business that they hate.
That's interesting.
They love the idea of having a business, but a lot of them end up building agency kind of models.
Yep.
And they end up having too much. They don't like all the extra stuff.
Right.
And
So are they the type that you're finding are more into the work and not the entrepreneur version of owning, managing the organization? They'd rather do the work?
the biggest shift that I normally make with someone when I first work with somebody is I help them understand the importance of getting paid for what you know, not for what you do.
Mm.
So many of us have a tie to a work ethic. We were raised by parents or a grandfather or somebody a teacher that taught us how important work ethic was, and we've tied our identity through our work, to busyness. And there's a big shift that happens in your life where people call you up for what you know, not for the services that you provide for them. You move into more of a director, manager role, and I'm not spewing some. Oh, you can go to the beach all the time, and
Sure.
But that being said, I mean, I'm blessed with the freedom to go and see and do things that I enjoy doing. I'm working in more location freedom in my life.
Yeah, I see you've been traveling a lot.
Yeah, and we had our 25th anniversary. My wife and I are both huge U2 fans, and U2's had a residency in Las Vegas, which is a city I don't even really like. Other than the food in Las Vegas, it's a city that I enjoy getting in and getting out of as quickly as possible.
Is this at the Sphere?
At the Sphere.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. Did you go?
We went twice, and dude,
Wonderful.
like audio and visually unreal. Innovate. People who do new things in new ways, and people who go first just really inspire me. And the Sphere is definitely representative of like, okay, this is a next level experience when it comes to concerts. But yeah, I mean, I would say a lot of them are folks that have a strong personal brand.
Hmm.
But I mean, in reality, in 2024, you really can't exist and succeed in business without a personal brand,
I agree.
unless you are at a massive level, like the CEO of Ford. And even that, there's probably pieces of that are keeping that company from innovating and iterating into the next level. I mean, Apple's a great example of that. Steve Jobs, we knew who he was. We had a very much a trust level with him.
Totally.
And Tim Cook as the CEO is not very innovative. Kind of rests on his laurels. He's not he's not as good of a communicator. Only thing most of us know about Tim is where he went to college.
Yeah, he's kind of a big nothing, honestly. It's Apple. Maybe he runs the business internally well. He might have those skill sets.
I think he does. I think he's a great, and I mean, Disney's had that problem where it's like you get a great person who understands the internal workings of running a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
But the storytelling that needs to happen to consumers is pretty uninspiring from Apple these days.
Yeah, well, and I'm seeing that from Disney as well. Honestly, I mean, Chapek was a massive disaster, in my opinion, when it came to the public at large. Iger was great until Chapek, but now Iger's playing cleanup in a way where he's looking like he's a massive mess too. I don't like either of them now.
I've been studying Roy Disney a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Disney company has only thrived in its best years where Walt and Roy, Frank Wells, and Michael Eisner together, when there is a creative powerhouse and a business powerhouse.
Yeah.
Sidekicks work in business too. And, a good coach is able to come alongside of you and help you fill in. When we talk about being a unicorn, I'm one of those persons that, the door between my creative brain and my analytical business brain, kind of, I'm able to think of both.
Yeah.
Um, I tend to lean more towards the creative side because that's just how I see myself. Um, and that's one of the things, what I do love about the show, Todd, is I love unicorns. In fact, I showed you before the show, I've got this unicorn here that we bought for everybody that attended the Thing Nashville. We did a special event called Stages, Pages, and Wages about speaking, writing, and making money from your personal brand. And we gave everybody a unicorn because I had a conversation with my wife about unicorns, and she was listing all these things she was looking for, and I was like, "You're searching for unicorns rather than admitting you are one."
Ooh.
And the idea of becoming a unicorn is really interesting because I've done a ton of research on unicorns.
I'm
The
glad
name
we're
of my
getting
book
here.
and my
Thank you. I was going to ask. Let's go.
Yeah, the name of my podcast is Making Elephants Fly. It's also the name of my first book that I wrote.
Available on
TerryWeaver.com.
Perfect.
It's the only place it's available because I like to sign every copy and send everyone a feather because it's a huge part of the story.
Of course.
I like the personal touch. I'm willing to give up sales for a personal touch. But the first mention of unicorns goes back however many thousands of years ago. Who knows when this was? We're not going to get into the age of the earthisms.
Yep.
But because of the elephant being a pachyderm, I've done a lot of studies on hippos, rhinoceroses, and elephants.
Yeah.
And the lessons we can learn from them and other wild animals. And I came across the Siberian unicorn.
The Siberian
And the Siberian
unicorn?
unicorn, and this isn't this is literally on BBC.com.
I trust the BBC. Okay, keep going.
I trust the BBC. But it very much was in fact, there's one of these actually in the Natural History Museum in New York City, right there by Central Park. I have my picture with it.
Of course you do.
The bones of it. But it was the hairy cousin of the woolly mammoth. Was the Siberian unicorn. Looks just like a rhino. But when you sort of think of a unicorn more of as a rhino than a mythical, fairy creature,
right? Yeah.
It shifts your thinking about what it takes to be a unicorn. Because rhinos are pretty sturdy creatures. They're thick-skinned. They're fast-moving.
They don't stop well, which is why a crash is the name for a group of rhinos.
They're named for a crash. Well, they're named for a crash because they run 30 miles an hour, but they only see 30 feet in front of them. And I think that's the best.
That's a visionary entrepreneur.
That's the best picture of a entrepreneur you can possibly move fast, regardless of how limited your vision is. And so, yeah, I've been doing a decent amount of research on the old Siberian unicorn. I'm writing a new book about pachyderms, and so I've dug deep into the hippos and the rhino as well. And I think I tend to live my life that way, man. Like I run towards things like we still haven't figured the thing out. When you ask me like, who are you coaching? I'm out there. I'm on podcasts. I do what I do, and people call me and say, "Hey, man, I need some help."
Yeah.
And speak at business conferences, and when I encounter leaders that want, one of the big ideas that I believe in is the African, proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Right.
And the idea of going far together it takes a much different context when you think about it in terms of the savannah. Because go far together sounds like, oh, yeah, it's much better. It's like, no. If you're on the savannah and you're a zebra, and there's 30 other zebra, and the lions are heading your direction. Do you want to be the lion at the rear? I mean, you want to be the zebra at the back of the pack or the one at the front of the pack?
Yeah, if we're going to go fast, I'm going to go fastest.
Yeah, well, you want to be the one. You want to, if you're going together, there's a whole lot less likelihood. That's why the wildebeests, they're the nothing burger of the savannah, but they have this incredible dominant power just because they travel together.
Yeah.
And since we're nerding out about animals, speaking of the BBC, I normally get up on Saturdays. You've heard my dogs during this call.
Yeah.
But I normally get up on Saturdays and we sleep with our TV on, and I always turn the TV to BBC before I go to bed on BBC America on Saturday nights. Because about midnight they switch over to all the nature documentaries. So when I wake up early in the morning, I'll sit there and watch nature documentaries. And there are two myths that I've had dispelled lately about animals, and I think they really apply a lot. This is obviously going to go in the new book, but I'll break it here on the Bootstrap Unicorn.
You're hearing it first, everybody. He's breaking new book content. Here we go. I'm ready.
Is that what's really interesting is you and I think of, like, you know, the dominant animals of the land and the ocean. Everybody talks about the lion being the king of the jungle.
Right.
And everybody talks about the orca being the most deadly animal. I mean, Shamu, hello, SeaWorld, you live right by it, right?
That's right.
That Shamu is the most deadly, you know, animal in the ocean. But neither one of them are good hunters alone.
Mm.
The lion basically can't take out a giraffe unless they're able to hunt as the pride. Because even though the giraffe, which you don't think of as a very, you know, agile, deadly animal, but it has one thing, and it has its kick. And so in order for a lion to catch a giraffe, it's got to work as a team. And the only way that a seal goes down in the ocean with orcas is through collaboration. And I think that is the most underused tool of entrepreneurs everywhere. You know, I'm watching real estate agents in our community that thrive, and the ones that are thriving are the ones that are collaborating, the ones that are deal stacking together, the ones that don't see their allies and their team members as competitors, but they'll go together and get the kill together.
Yeah.
And I think for too long we have worn this solopreneur badge, this, you know, I'm my own man, I'm my own woman, I can do this on my own. You know, and I think there's so much power in collaboration. And if the two most dominant alpha animals on the planet need the help of others, that I think you and I do too.
Yeah, it's 100% true, and I've lived it myself. You know, in multiple businesses that I've owned, I've tried to self-finance. I've tried to stay up all night, 7 days a week, and you know, at some point you go, okay, I got it thus far, but now I'm stuck. And I'm tired and I'm kind of sick, and not just like sick of it, but I've literally run myself down. And then you go, shoot, I should have been running with somebody a long time ago. And then you start realizing how human you are, and you go start figuring it out. And I think I'm old enough now to have been through the cycle a couple of times, and I don't think I do it as much anymore. But there is, I mean, our American culture has a fascination with a myth that entrepreneurs are, you know, and not just solopreneur, but that self-made thing that you brought up earlier. It's the sexiest lie in business out there, because it really is alluring. Oh, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to take all the credit. And I don't think anybody's actually saying they're going to take all the credit. I don't think there's that level of hubris and ego floating out there. Yet somehow that is the thought, and that's kind of the subtext to this very self-destructive pursuit. I think more collaboration needs to happen. And even though I'm collaborating a lot, I need to do it even more.
Yeah, I'd be really intentional. It's interesting you bring up the health piece, because one of the things that I've discovered that I wasn't expecting to discover as I've begun to work with higher level entrepreneurs is the effects of all of this on their mental and physical well-being.
Oh yeah.
There's a popular book out called The Body Keeps Score. And how, you know, that stress and anxiety, you know, if you look at, you know, all of the diseases we're talking about in our world, you know, and not the ones that are made up in labs in other countries.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
But, you know, but the other C word, that when you start to look at where that comes from, it always has a root in anxiety. You know, it always has a root in, you know, just untreated, just you don't see people celebrating. You see people celebrating. Oh man, I own the to-do list today. I wish we would learn to celebrate. You know what I did today? Nothing. I took a day. I took a day for me.
Yeah.
And dude, I'm starting to get near one of those odometer ages where the zeros occur. And I've started to embrace that, where I'm just like, you know what, man, we're hitting a wall.
Yeah.
And rather than like trying to fight it, we're gonna not do anything, or we're gonna do something different that's more life giving.
I think Aristotle said that the mean between vice and virtue is what he considered the good life. And I know my grandfather always said everything in moderation, and not enough people are going, yeah, I took a day off. That strikes a balance against all the hard working days.
Yeah, and like you said, you and I were talking about travel. I was like, man, you traveled, and we took a lot of time off last fall. It was our 25th wedding anniversary. We were super intentional about it, and we were still kind of getting up from that, like, they called it revenge travel when we couldn't go anywhere for a year or two, and so we went to places. I try to live a bucket list free life.
Right, because you're checking off all of the boxes already.
Yeah, when you decide you want to do something, you start to put it on the calendar.
Yeah.
And our parents have started, both my mom and my wife's mom, know not to tell us anything, because as soon as they say we want to do stuff, we start going, we start calling travel agents and booking trips.
I love that.
I remember my grandmother, who, her one thing that she went to the grave is always wanting to go to Israel, and she was waiting for it to be peaceful there. And it never was. And it obviously, in our world now, it's the least peaceful that it's ever been.
Yeah.
And so, I think we've been told that we can always wait for later.
Later frequently doesn't come.
Later frequently doesn't come, dude. We had a friend whose dad was a cardiologist, and he lived his whole life. He actually, funny enough, does a lot of the same work. His son does a lot of the same work that you do, and moved to Hollywood, and has been in the credits of almost every Marvel movie since kind of this.
Oh, that's cool.
Disney took over Marvel, and his dad just hated that he was doing that. He was throwing his life away, and obviously he was making the credits, but a lot of times what he was doing was making coffee. But he was out there
everybody
living,
starts somewhere,
right? You got to start somewhere, and his dad retired and died that weekend.
Oh.
He lived his whole life for like another life, and then I was like, man, dude, good for you for going out and chasing and getting. It's like, I know you felt like you disappointed your father, but he missed out. He saved his life for another time that never came, and
So how do you reconcile? It's an interesting story you're telling, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs who, they get in with an idea like, oh, I'm going to arrive at a certain destination in my life where, I got a certain net worth, I got a certain car, there's some, maybe material visions that they have, maybe certain lifestyle descriptions, but it's a long road to maybe get there. And so how do you reconcile for the entrepreneur this kind of dichotomy of you might never get to that destination? And, and then also kudos to you for trying. Like, how do you, I mean, I've got my own version of it, but what do you think around that?
Stop living for life for people who don't care. Stop living your life so that the Joneses or these other imaginary people will love your life.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with my Toyota RAV4. In fact, I was so happy we bought another one. Like we have two of them now. And it's like, sure, would a Lexus be nice? Yeah, right. But, we have a great house, and, we have a goal of having a beach house in the near future. I'm way more interested in freedom than I am stuff.
Yeah.
Because I've learned that time is one of those values things that I value more than anything else. And who gets my time? How do they get my time? It's helped me price myself better because I value my time more.
Mm.
Um, I know that I know that when I'm coaching someone or consulting with a company that they're basically buying my time out of my business and out of my life.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
You can't get
so
it back.
can't get it back.
So, as you're coaching, then, how do you help people get into a mindset where they can build their business in a way that it'll thrive, it'll more than sustain them, but that would include, I hope, that level of freedom and fulfillment that I know you personally are chasing? Like, how do you orient somebody in that direction? What is it that you say? Oh, okay. He's either getting some kind of object right now that he can show as an object lesson, or he's taking the dogs out. And so we're going to find out, and we're going to look at his background while we're doing this. I love
No, the dog
elephant.
was just trying to get into the office, and the scratching was getting louder.
Got it.
Let me
Okay, we
answer
couldn't
that.
hear it here.
Let me answer that.
Yeah.
I created a quiz actually at discoveryourthing.com. It's free. There's a free course that goes with it. It's a couple $1,000s worth of value worth of stuff that I've given away. It's some of the stuff that literally when people hire me to do a VIP day with them, and the first thing I said, I took some of the tools and tactics that I used in that, and I'm just giving it away.
That's awesome.
So when I say it's like, people are like, oh, it's my best stuff is free. It's literally some of my best stuff, and it is completely free, no strings attached.
Discoveryourthing.com.
Discoveryourthing.com.
Awesome.
There's an assessment of what kind of entrepreneur you are. I've kind of identified 4 levels of entrepreneur, and then there's a list of probably about 2 or 3 hours worth of content for you to go through and work through in a workbook, and some of it may take you a couple of days to process through. And in fact, right now I'm giving an hour of coaching away for free, 45-minute coaching session. If they complete that and email me and say, hey, and I'll send them a link and they can schedule. But one of the things I ask people in that, and it's one of the first things I ask people normally when I start working them, is I call it the Spice Girls principle.
Okay.
They have a song that, the lyric is, tell me what you want.
What you really, really want.
And most people don't know what they really, really want. And I can't take you somewhere that you don't even know where you want to go. And that's what's keeping most people from going anywhere desirable, is they haven't identified what it is that they really want out of life. Are you really just looking to assess are you looking to acquire a bunch of wealth? Why? What do you want? What does that do for you? Like, what do you want your business to do for you? Not just how do you want your business to serve people, but how do you want it to serve you? And, if that's more travel, if that's more time with your kids, I hear stories all the time of great entrepreneurs that are like, man, I just want to work enough so that I can stop working when my kids get out of school for the day. I know some people that like working 2 days a week. I'm not saying that's realistic for everybody, but it's realistic for some people, depending on what you need to make.
I've got a good friend who was interviewed on this show, Jordan, and he has a law firm, and he's working, I think, 14 hours a week in his business, or really on his business, not in his business, and he's got an amazing staff behind him.
Yeah, and you have to know what you want to build, and what you want, how you want your time, and how you want to encounter people, and what you want to do with your. Obviously, there are things we have to do.
Yeah.
Or someone's got to do.
It's not really whether it should be done; it's just who should be doing it.
Right, and once you start to figure out what it is that, like, we're not like vision boarding and picking a picture out of a magazine here, but we're truly identifying like what it is that you really want and what it is that we're really going for. And for more often than not, the biggest desire people have is for time freedom to do something besides work. It's typically tied to places or people.
Yeah.
You know, it's typically tied to your family, or it's tied to,
Kind of a destination experience.
yeah, you know, the desire to live in two places, or
Yeah, I want to hike a specific mountain someday.
yeah, or they want to, you know, they want to have the weekends off or to go boating. You know,
Yeah.
they want to live on a sailboat 6 months a year, whatever. You know, and I'm not here to tell you what you want out of life, and I'm here to help you get whatever that is. So people are like, yeah, but like, you know, and I have frameworks and formulas, but at the end of the day, what I want to help you do is get what you want.
Yeah.
And obviously, in order for you to get what you want, there are some things that you probably need, because most of us like to eat and live indoors.
Yeah, that whole tent life isn't for me.
Yeah, like, yeah. People are like, do you enjoy camping? I was like, no, I've worked pretty hard to not be homeless, so I don't need to play it on the weekends. You know, I think it's just identifying what it is those values are to you, and what are the things you truly value.
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot of what you end up helping people with in the thing. I remember attending a couple of times where a number of your guests do a variety of things, from inspirational to full tactical stuff. I know my talk at the thing is normally pretty tactical. You know, I want to help you understand how to do some kind of video marketing. I'm leaving you with some actual tips. I might even recommend tools that you purchase and where to find them. But that's my thing that I'm sharing. And it seems like you and Leslie both are really making sure that every event, that soul searching that we seem to be kind of talking about right now, is for a lot of the repeat people revisited. And for the new people, maybe first time, they're figuring out. And it's funny, the name of your event, The Thing, is so perfect and so frustrating at the same time. Because it is absolutely, people are trying to figure out what their thing is. And it's so broad, but it's also kind of almost hard to advertise. Come to the thing, come see the thing. What thing? What are you pointing to? You know, the thing. But it really is the right name, because you're working people towards figuring out their thing. And I wonder how you are bringing people to a level of clarity and revelation that I think is unique. And we're hearing some of your formula, but what is that secret sauce? I mean, if somebody listening to this right now needed to figure out their thing, what would you tell them right now to start figuring out what's the real why, what really is driving them?
Yeah, I would say obviously go to the Discover Your Thing process. It's all there. It's all downloadable. It's an entire course built in Kajabi that literally there's no point you put your credit card in.
Awesome. So it's safe for somebody who's willing to try it.
He's willing to give it a try and willing to ask themselves those questions. Since I've done the free coaching offer, it's amazing when you offer something for free, how unwilling people are even to take action on something new.
I know. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to pause.
And here's where the thing really came from, right?
Okay, hold on. I want to pause and I want to hear that. But hey, audience, real quick. I've known Terry a long time at this point. He's really giving it to you for free. There really isn't a catch. You always can hire him, and you know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to care about you and try to help you find the thing that you need. But honestly, just go get it, would you, please? All right, I'm back. So how did the thing start?
The thing started with this conversation around, like, you know, there was two things we kind of got at the thing. We were going to call it the Assemble Conference, honestly. That was the original, you know, it kind of sounds like it was kind of the original, like, place we really started was, I've been to so many events where you never leave the event feeling like anybody tells you how to put it together. It's like leaving IKEA. It's like you get this strange piece of paper with no writing and odd stick figures telling you how to put together a piece of furniture. Now, I know that involves in our house, that involves me helping my wife get all the stuff out of the box, putting all the screws in piles for her, and then leaving the room until she calls me and needs my help. I know. In our house, that's how that works because I'm also not very good at following instructions, which creates a real problem when assembling furniture. Um,
Oh, I know you're not
but
crazy about rules.
yeah, I'm not very good at following rules either. I'm much better at creating them than I am following them, um, or trying to live a life that doesn't have a whole lot of boundaries on it and a lot of fences, other than the ones that are obviously required to stay alive. Um, but like it really started with this understanding that everyone has a thing,
Hmm.
you know, and a lot of us have things that are, trying to explain what you do to somebody is not easy.
Right.
That's kind of because your real genius isn't in the fact that you create video content for people. The real genius is the magic that you're able to create by helping people truly understand what it is they want to communicate before you turn a light red on the camera.
Right.
And, that's a huge difference, right? Like that's a huge different set of understanding. It is knowing how to do the stuff, and that's the things that are hard to articulate, which is why often our best way to get business is referrals, is because those are the people that are able to articulate what it is we do better than anyone else because they've experienced it. You've had a front row seat to it.
Right.
But the real deal is like so many people that come to the thing have man, we have people who come to the thing who have a brand new idea. They've got a 6-figure job they hate and they're trying to get out of it. And we have people who have 7-figure businesses. We have New York Times best-selling authors that attend the thing. I have speakers that still come and insist on paying because they get so much value out of the thing. Because
That's awesome.
It's been so critical. Because the community has been so helpful, and and all of this, you can sign up on we're about to unleash our Orlando and Nashville events for this year. You can get on the list at thething.live.
It's a great event.
Or if,
The things that go on there are really fun. You never know when you're going to have to be playing with lightsabers. You never know when a grenade specialist is going to be explaining how things blow up. You never know.
Or when someone's going to hand you a stuffed unicorn.
Yeah, seriously. It's kind of this weird ball of surprises, all to keep you engaged and illustrate new learnings. It reminds me of Sunday school. You get these object lessons in Sunday school. And every once in a while, you get with that really good Sunday school teacher who's got all the cool object lessons, and you learn a whole bunch. And I feel like that's what it is.
I personally teach with objects, Josh. I remember speaking at a youth camp, and I was in the Atlanta airport, and this guy came up to me in like a business suit. I was like, "You're Terry Weaver. You spoke at my camp 15 years ago," and he knew exactly what I talked about.
Wow.
And I used the illustration of a light switch, and he still knew exactly what I said 15 years ago. And I knew that if I could give people goofy things, and I've got some of those goofy things on my desk. I mean, they're all over it. They sit behind me. There's, obviously in Nashville we take our people to the Savannah Bananas, so I keep a banana ball on my desk.
By the way, I am now a completely rabid fan thanks to you, and my family is planning a trip to see the Savannah Bananas because your podcast on that was outstanding.
Yeah, Jesse Cole is a fantastic human who owns the Savannah Bananas. If you're a business owner and haven't read Fans First by Jesse Cole, you need to get on Amazon right now and order it. Or you can go to the SavannahBananas.com and buy a signed version of it from him.
I'm buying a signed version. I have not read it yet. I just know that everything they do, they live out loud in a way that is, look, why would I not be a Savannah Bananas fan? This is
Correct.
How I choose to identify.
And once you experience a game in person, you will never be the same. We took last year at the thing, we took our people to it, and I immediately began. I didn't plan the Nashville event until I knew when they were coming here.
Wow.
So if that tells you anything, this year we're doing an on-field suite, so we'll be, the only person closer to we're actually closer to the pitcher, the catcher than the pitcher is. So we're going to be on the field for the experience. We're excited about it. It's going to be amazing.
Wow.
For the Nashville thing in June. But one of the things that I know, man, is like obviously when you come to a conference, it has to be inspiring.
Yeah.
But it also has to be practical. And so we try to I try to look at planning an event like a chef curates a meal. I want all the courses to take you through a process of I realize my job is to kind of be the guy that ties it all together and to kind of dictate where we're going. But it's packed full of practical things like, you've taught video. Liz Wilcox comes in and teaches email marketing, who's a genius. And, all of these different people who teach these things that are very specific. We had someone come and teach Facebook ads and how to run a Facebook ad campaign for $5 a day. And, that was one of the things we learned in Orlando this year. And also then someone who's, been the vice president of Animal Kingdom would come in and talk to us for a few minutes. So we try to have a different flow of experiences and different people. Because you can't just sit in a conference room and learn tactics for 3 days straight.
Yeah, well, and you could, but, I remember that Far Side comic where, the student is asking, the teacher, may I be excused, my brain is full. And so it's not a bladder full thing, it's a brain is full thing. And I feel like there's this balance between tactics and inspiration. And if you can bring inspiration up, the tactics have room in you. Yes. But if you're not striking that balance, then you're wasting time.
Yeah, I think of it like I'm trying to build a water park. I'm not trying to waterboard you. And if I just had speaker after speaker, and I remember doing an interview like this a few months ago, and the guy was like, "Man, it was actually Jason Wright's Speak with People podcast," and he's like, "Man, I left the conference with so many notes," and I'm like, "Man, that's amazing. I love that for you." But I beg you, don't ever leave. Make sure you don't leave without a to-do list. Go back and read those notes and start checking things and start applying things that you've learned. Because, man, if you go and do that, and a couple times a year, you get in a room with a community of people that care about you and that are there to invest in you and are there to pour into you, and then you're able to walk away and learn about someone who actually understands how to win on YouTube, how to beat the Facebook algorithm. Man, you'll be better for it.
Well, provided you've got that to-do list attached to it, it kind of takes us full circle back to the entrepreneur who's struggling to figure out that delegation. They're not willing to ask for the help, and so they've got that negative version of bootstrapping, stuck in their reality, where that to-do list would just be, you'd literally have to set it aside. You can't do it because you've got all the other things.
Yeah.
So
we have an attendee that pays for their VA to come to the conference with him.
Wow.
So they can literally make sure their VA has a to-do list of all the stuff they learn, because it's like, hey, yes, we're going to do that, and you're going to do it. And
right. Well, this is exactly where I was going. Like the next time I'm an attendee, now that I've got enough of a just amazing staff here at C47, I finally, for the first time in years, can go, I have a to-do list, and I have people to help me accomplish it. And I'm going for full transparency on this show. And for 2.5 years, I didn't have a personal assistant. For 5 years, I did. And then for really wonderful reasons, she had to move on. So I support her, but I couldn't find a quality replacement. And it took 2.5 years to get there. And now I'm back. I'm back, baby. And so I'm one of those entrepreneurs who next time around can take the to-do list and do. It's good stuff. I think more people need to strive for that. You want to be inspired to act. Yeah.
And you want to be equipped to act, and you want to have the tools and the tactics. And man, I mean, think about how fast our world is moving now compared to any other time in history.
My God, it's breakneck.
Right? I mean, and who knows you know, if you listen to the gurus, AI is going to replace us all. Um, AI will never replace human ingenuity. It will never. I think of AI as a really powerful ping pong player,
Yeah.
and that's how I use AI. I use AI when it's late at night and there's nobody else to brainstorm with,
Yeah,
and
it's a
I've got
great
a
thinking
harebrained
partner.
idea. And huh?
It's a great thinking partner. That's how I use it too. I am very polite to the AI just in case it does take over the world. It'll remember how nice I was.
Yes, I know people that talk to it with the nickname, and uh, I know I have a client that calls it Chatty.
Oh, that's cute.
Um,
All right.
yeah, and literally she types all of her prompts as Chatty. Um, and man, it's a powerful tool, and it's just like any other tool, right? Like at every other time in history, we've always had, we've always thought that, it's funny. You've heard that old song on MTV. The video killed the radio star. Sunday night, Taylor Swift announced a new record. You probably don't know this.
I
'Cause
actually knew that because my daughter has decided she's a Swiftie.
Yeah, you know what she's selling, Josh? Cassettes. Now I'm not sure where the Swifties are going to be playing these cassettes, because I don't have anywhere currently to play a cassette that I know of. There's probably a boombox in a closet that I haven't given to Goodwill yet.
She's doing it. She's actually issuing magnetic tape cassettes like you and I grew up with.
Yes. Now I do have one cassette. I keep it back here because it's awesome, and it's the Guardians of the Galaxy mixtape.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, they did it a Record Dorsey special, Awesome Mix Volume 1. I keep that back here with my original Disneyland replica flag.
That's cool. Well, that'll be
Yeah,
really interesting. I mean, vinyl has come back in a way that surprised me. There's a whole vinyl section at Target now, and
Yeah, vinyl at Target is the weirdest thing ever.
But I love it. And Miller, who's in the studio right now, he's the content producer in house. He's got hundreds of records, but they're all originals. Well, I guess not. I mean, some of them are modern originals, some new LPs from rappers and stuff. But he's got a lot of the classics too, because he rightfully appreciates the pop and the scratch and the fidelity of the classic medium. Maybe the analog. The analog experience of tapes is about due. I was actually thinking about 8-tracks the other day and how I'd love to get my hands on an 8-track, because I made a joke about how my first vehicle actually had an 8-track and my kids had no clue. So I just want to show them the object, and I'll Google it and it's fine. But there's nothing like saying, here, this is what we put in the machine.
Yeah, and it's what's interesting is, like, I think the same thing is true for business. That the stuff that Zig Ziglar was teaching 50 years ago still works. It's going to come back around again.
Oh, yeah.
That the things that are tried and true will always be tried and true.
Yep. Dale Carnegie stuff, too.
Yeah, like, in fact, I bought a big, giant, old school, one of those guys is from a couple of I've been buying more of those old books. And you get them and you're like, I don't understand half of what they're saying, but you get them and you find one or two principles. It's like, oh yeah. Man, it's just good. It's timeless information.
It is. It's like James Allen's "As a Man Thinketh." It's a lot of poorly written philosophy until you get to the moment where you go, oh yeah, that was something, and then you can tie it into a lot of the modern self-help that we have out there. He clearly influenced Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill clearly influenced Dale Carnegie. You can see a lot of that, for lack of a better description, inbreeding of philosophy that is now fueling what we all read in a modern time.
Yeah, it's Napoleon Hill's like 20 Rules of Business and Life or whatever. I bought that. And it's interesting because it's the opposite of a kind of book that I'm kind of working on, but it's similar in the fact that it's a set of principles.
Yeah.
Except for his looks more like a phone book, and I'm gonna probably look more like a thin a little book that you can read in a couple hours.
He was verbose like I can't believe. Think and Grow Rich. he actually did a recording, and it's available on Amazon and a couple of other different places where you can stream it for free. I know I have mine downloaded on iTunes.
I know people are collecting his stuff on vinyl too, speaking of vinyl.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Well, so this one's like a 49-minute long reading. I think it's 13 or 14 chapters when it's digital. And it's him basically walking you through Think and Grow Rich. And I look at that and I go, oh, couldn't you have made your book this long? But he didn't. It's like 500 pages long or whatever it is. But he was very helpful in truncating it for the rest of us by just reading it himself.
You know, and that's there's this false belief like that, you know, when you sell a book that it has to be beefy and thick and overcomplicated. When, you know, I mean, you and I both love Seth Godin.
Yep.
And his best books are the ones that are, you know.
Oh, Tribe was brilliant. Purple Cow was brilliant. They're tiny little books.
And,
yeah.
Yeah, and I think what's funny is like people will pay X. People will not buy your book and buy the summary when your book's too complicated.
Right.
So I'm the latest book project I'm working on is going to be more in that Tribe length.
Good.
Just because I personally love books like that. Like I've got Johnny Maxwell's newest book sitting here wanting to read it, and I've got, you know, this 10x is easier than 2x, which I've heard brilliant things about. But they're big, thick books that, you know.
Hopefully the words are big.
Exactly. When's the picture version come out? Yeah, and I think it's how do we take real coaching and teaching is really, in fact, John Maxwell said this, that, you know, teachers take simple things and complicate them, but communicators take complex things and simplify them.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
As a leader, we want to be communicators. We want to take complex things and make them simple for people. We want to make them portable and packageable so people can take them with them and know how to apply them to their life and to their business.
And actually get a to-do list out of it that allows you
get a to-done list.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. So this morning we recorded a podcast. I'll show you a book from so the gentleman who we were interviewing, Ken Rusk. He has Blue Collar Cash, and it's a really cool book. And he uses someday and today. He goes, you know, the someday probably never comes, but if you choose to make something today, you are going to do it today. That's intentional, and that's something that's going to become a reality, and that's what I'm hearing here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us just have to start looking at our time, where it's going. Is our time, you know, the thing that I'm drilling down with a lot of my clients right now is, what are we doing for I have this kind of new framework that I've created. And one of the things that I realized is that a lot of people are I hear they're busy,
mm-hmm.
but they're not generating revenue. And so I've tried to get to the bottom of that the best I can. And what are you doing that are revenue generating ideas? What are you doing that are information?
All right, I hear the puppies. We're going to take a puppy break for a second here.
Yeah, normally when I record, the Mrs. Weaver normally comes, and I try to schedule it late in the afternoon where she can come and.
Yeah, I know she's busy today. Yeah,
so she's
it's
busy,
all good. I love dogs. Dogs are something that more entrepreneurs should be able to have some time for if we can figure out this way to live life and not just work to eventually live.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. It's like, you know, people are like, do you want an office? I'm like, no, I don't want an office. I'd love a studio to go to, like you have, and I have access to studios. But there's something about, for me, you know, I've actually got a setup here, and I've got a setup with more lighting to do like teaching right over there.
So you have a studio. It's just at home.
It's just at home.
Yeah.
I had to create it during the pandemic.
Didn't we all?
Because people still wanted me to speak, but I couldn't get there.
Nobody could. Yeah. No, it's amazing what that caused for all of our businesses. That's a time I hope we don't have to revisit in our lifetime. I like the scrappy part, like getting scrappy and making things happen and being being ingenious and doing what has to be done in order to keep life and business moving forward. I'm proud of everything that happened in my world.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot.
Yeah.
We learned a lot of things that people had said were impossible to do.
Yes.
And we learned to work. I picked up a bad habit of working for our dining room table. During that season.
Do you still do it?
I still do it, even though I've got this great office up here.
Yeah, but now you're around your wife and dogs a little bit more. There's
that's the other that's when they're home. I tend to want to not be up here. I want to be available to them.
Yeah.
When my wife's home, I want to, and I still. I mean, I'm in my office lots and lots, but it's. But it's also why I have an extra computer up here, so I can just flop it up and turn it on and go.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of the thing, man, is being able to create environments and spaces where we're always ready to do whatever that thing is we need to do.
Yeah.
Because I think excuses are one of those things that keep us, we have a narrative of telling ourselves these things that make actually achieving what we want to achieve impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, and what we can achieve. By the way, I keep seeing this awesome thumbs up pop up. Are you adding that thumbs up, Terry?
I have no idea. I'm doing something with my hand, and Riverside is doing something that I've never told it to do.
Yeah, you know what? I'm great. I'm going to do a thumbs up right now and see if my AI recognizes it. Maybe.
I only see bits and pieces of it, and it's like I don't know what's happening.
Well, so what's really weird is 2 or 3 times you have said something that I really like, and I've seen a thumbs up, and I'm like, did my brain just tell the computer to do that? I feel magical, and I mean, other than the fact that Yensid is right behind you, and so Yensid, which for the uninitiated, Disney backwards is Yensid, and that's the name of the sorcerer in The Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's not Mickey's name.
Literally right behind me. So.
Right, yeah. So it's actually not Mickey's name. However, a lot of people slip and call Mickey with the sorcerer's hat Yensid, and so this magic thumbs up, it just keeps popping up over a sorcerer Mickey, and
it's all the unicorns today, my friend.
Absolutely, actually, it kind of did make him a unicorn. It was like a thumb on Mickey's forehead for a second.
What's happening? I don't know what's going on.
Well,
I only see a little corner of it, and I'm wondering.
I don't know if these are AI failures or what's going on here, but I'm enjoying every bit of it. I'm just confused.
And I wonder if it's on the recording. I guess you'll find out later.
I really hope it's on the recording so that we don't look like crazy people.
So we don't look like delusional fools. I thought all I see is the half of it, so I just thought it was like a thought bubble coming out of my head. I'm like,
no, it's actually like a translucent whitish gray bubble with a thumbs up in it, and the timing is brilliant. And so I wonder if somebody joined into the room, and of course this is on my teleprompter right now, Terry, so it's far enough away, and I've got a 15-inch teleprompter, but it's just distant. So your face is great. I can have this conversation with you, but all of the little things that we might need to do to click on, I can't see it. So there could be somebody in the room listening to this live, and I would not know.
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, and you know what? Everything we're saying here is going to end up public at some point, and I hope somebody in here is getting something out of it.
Let's try to figure out why our podcast recording tool is. Maybe it likes what we're saying. Maybe it's a new. The AI has created like an internal cheering dialogue, so we continue to.
Hey, you know what? I'll take all the cheering I can get. Life always needs some cheerleaders.
Let's actually talk about that for a minute, because I think, obviously we brought up T-Swizzle, that one of the most positive things that I've seen around the whole Taylor Swift world.
Yeah.
And I watched the Grammys for the first time in a long time this weekend.
Okay.
What I'm always astonished with Taylor Swift, especially on award shows, is she knows the lyrics to everybody's songs. And I live in Nashville. It's Music City.
Yeah.
In fact, my neighborhood is zoned for Heritage Elementary School, which is the elementary school where Miss Miley Cyrus went to school.
Oh, fun.
I used to go to church with Miley. In fact, one of our first Sundays sitting at church, we were sitting with Haley from Paramore and Billy Ray Cyrus and Miley Cyrus all in the same little section at church one Sunday. Nashville's a weird place to go to church.
I'll
And
bet.
I watched Taylor Swift stand up and sing the new Miley Cyrus "Flowers" song, which I don't get that song. Yes, you can buy yourself flowers. Congratulations. But nonetheless, it was the number one song of America, according to the Recording Academy. But what I did love is the fact that there's this culture of cheering. Of here's Taylor Swift, the biggest artist in the universe right now.
Right.
I'm assuming she's successful on some other planet as well, because she seems to be some sort of alien life form. And
well, we should probably talk about the conspiracy theories behind her too, which suddenly.
Yeah, and I'm only partially kidding about her being an alien life form, because it does seem like she's otherworldly. But here she is standing up, singing along with Miley to every word of the song. And I think the one of the things that I really wanted to make sure truly happened in the Think community was that I could create a culture where people felt like that there was somebody cheering them on when they really maybe didn't feel like that was happening. And I can't do that for everybody. Mm-hmm. But the folks that are in my mastermind and my group coaching program, because almost all my coaching is I put them in a mastermind group together. Because I think that's one of the most important things for people to have somebody else besides me that they can call when they're stuck. Not necessarily stuck on like a tactic, but I'm like they're sitting there and they're feeling like, man, it feels like I'm all alone. Because in reality, there are a lot of the work that you and I do is alone.
It's true. Yeah.
Or it's through a screen. And knowing that somebody else might be going through some of the same stuff that we're going through, or somebody else is frustrated about some of the stuff that we're frustrated about, it's helpful to know that there's somebody else that can be there walking through that with you. Somebody else can say, yeah, man, my anxiety went through the roof and my health went off the rails because my business was out of control and I was working too much. And when I changed that, my whole life changed. And so, I think there needs to be more cheering for each other in this space, and less competition, and more just celebrating each other's accomplishments and not seeing everybody else as a competitive someone. It's like there's success doesn't have a scarcity problem.
No, it doesn't. And she,
one of the
back to
disturbing
Taylor
things about the
Swift, she obviously doesn't have the fear that Miley's taking over.
Right. And one of the disturbing things is this was like the year of the woman, and I'm all for women. Like I've been around strong women my entire life. I was raised by a single mother, so I understand the importance of small women. She was an entrepreneur. She owned a business. She beat breast cancer. All of those things.
Wow.
And
I believe we call that a badass.
Right. But I think there's this lie that we keep hearing in culture, that in order for women to succeed, or in order for someone else to succeed, that we can't, or that in order for them to be big, we have to be small. And I think we need to end that narrative. And it's like, for there to be strong women, there can still be strong men. For you to succeed in business, I can still succeed in business.
Absolutely.
You don't have to lose so I can win.
Well, it's kind of that whole run your own race thing. And if you don't have a scarcity mindset, then the opposite has to be abundance. So if you're running your own race and there can be enough for you, then the competition is not a competition at all. And in fact, benchmarking, which I like the idea of benchmarking because you can learn from other people's journeys.
Yes.
Is exactly what that should be. It should be a learning instead of they're winning and I'm losing. It's they're winning and I can win too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more culture of where we celebrate each other's wins. And when you see somebody in your community or in your area, or if you're another person on your sales team, if you're work for a company or you're a real estate agent and somebody else sold a house, man, celebrate with them.
Yeah.
And learn to celebrate other people as much as you want to be celebrated. And I think our entire attitude and mood in this country would change, because if anything is true, obviously we're in an election year, but not. I think if we've learned anything from the last couple election cycles, Washington D.C. is not going to make your life better. There's a pretty
Doesn't
good
matter who
chance
gets
they're gonna
elected.
doesn't matter who gets elected or who doesn't get elected. There's a pretty good chance they're going to make it worse. But you and I have a lot of control over how we live and how we enjoy and live life. One of my favorite side effects from the pandemic year was I stopped watching the news. So
I too am not a news person. I'll catch up a little bit with some quick reading. If there's something
I'll
that
do
I
some
feel like will
quick,
affect my business, I'll read about it.
yeah, I typically, when something happens and enough people start talking about it, I start to chase it. There's a great Instagram follow that I do called Ride the News. It's guys that literally just bullet point the facts of a story of the day, the couple of big things that are going on, and I'll probably consume more of their content than I do ABC, Fox, CNN.
Well, unfortunately, I think all of them are bought and paid for by entities that have interests that aren't mine. And
Correct.
so I've got to try to stay with independent, and independent is very hard to find.
Yeah, they've been one of the cycles that I've and I've had to learn, man, because there are a lot of these things I care deeply about. I'm a person of faith.
Yeah.
I value life. I value freedom. But I can only control what I can control.
Yeah.
And I've got work to do.
Right.
I've got people that need help. I've got entrepreneurs that I'm serving. I've got 3 different events that I'm putting on in 2024 to serve and help people. I've got other events that I'm speaking at.
Well, you would be off mission if you obsessed about the news that you can't control. And
Correct.
that's kind of how I feel about my business too, is our business is positively affecting other businesses, and those businesses feed people. And
Yes.
so not only does, my team need us to do well, but the teams that are hiring us need us to do well. So if I'm out obsessing about something that has nothing to directly do with my business, then I'm off mission and I am harming people by being off mission.
Yeah, it's a good word, man. It's good to, and I think you and you have a good understanding of the power of the work that we do.
We do good work.
You're creating things that are helping other people, and and I know if I get focused on those other things, that I can't be focused on doing the things that really matter.
Yeah.
And there's no shortage of work to be done. And
So true. And it'll never end. So we ought not give ourselves permission unless the mission changes to get distracted with that big national stuff that is actually effectively small stuff for us.
yes.
Yeah. So Terry, I want to respect your time here, and I don't want to do a 5-hour episode. And I know you and I have had conversations that have almost broken the machines and run out of battery before. So I'm going to do an awkward wrap up to a degree, but there's a couple of things that I want to make sure we cover in absolute clarity for the audience, because you've given a free offer away. You've got an event that changes lives that I want people to be aware of. You are a coach that, I don't know that you have room right now because you're pretty well booked up, but you sometimes have openings where you can bring people into the fold. So I
have 3 or 4 spots right now.
Holy cow. So act fast. They're moving quickly. So Terry, what are the couple of places that we ought to be driving people to get to know your world a little bit better and maybe participate in it?
Obviously, terryweaver.com. I try to keep everything up to date on there.
Cool.
For all things, the thing is thething.live.
Okay.
Terry Weaver, you can get my podcast, you can get my blog posts. We've got some exciting episodes of the Making Out of Us Fly podcast coming out. We just had Seth Godin and Jesse Cole. Got some exciting interviews scheduled in the next few weeks.
Have you gotten Gary Vee yet?
Man, Gary Vee is one that he said yes, and his team has never, I literally messaged him. I was like, bro, you said yes in 2015, and we still haven't made it happen. It's time. This is the year. You have a new book coming out. You're going to make it happen. And I've always enjoyed Gary's content. Even when I've disagreed with him, I've always liked him.
Well, he seems extremely likable. I like him a lot. I think he actually cares about people, and I think that's what's so endearing.
And I think that's generally why he does it.
Yeah.
He does it because he genuinely cares.
Yeah.
And I know
Two people who genuinely care and affect people positively should hang out. And so, hey, Miller, I know this is like in the middle of a podcast, but can I request that this section be cut out and we promote it? And I'll put dollars behind advertising it to try to get Gary Vee to actually move his awesome but delinquent butt, since he agreed in 2015 to be on Terry's show. Can we try to get Gary's attention?
Like, cut that part out.
Oh, we're going to leave it in the show. We'll just leave this whole conversation in the show. But I actually want to slice this section. I want to release it onto the interwebs. And I want to publicly, lovingly shame Gary into taking action on this, because he is one of the coolest people on the internet. And I know he tries to deliver on his promises. So I'm just trying to help.
And I'm not mad, dude. Let's for Gary. I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Gary.
Oh,
Gary
this is all
team.
jest and fun. But in the truth, I think you two will have an amazing
and here's the deal. I know
conversation.
something about Gary, and what I love about Gary, probably more than anything else, is he hires people knowing that they're going to come and go.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that probably originally, a lot of the people that were on, hashtag Team Gary Vee, his like core like team. None of those people work there anymore.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, he grows people around him because
then they move on. And I love that. I love that he sees his business as a launch pad for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And almost
it's
everyone
so cool.
that's been on, what's his video guy's main video guy like? I know that guy does D-Rock. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, literally, D-Rock is a noun to describe other humans. Like, people come to you and say, I need to find the D-Rock in my business. That's
exactly how I ended up expanding my business. There was a point like 7-8 years ago where I had scaled down to just me again, and I was hiring freelancers. And I had a conversation with my wife, and I told her, I said, I need a D-Rock. And she goes, what is a D-Rock and how expensive is it? I said, a D-Rock is a human who's highly motivated and costs a paycheck. And she goes, here we go. And that's exactly what happened. And I hired a D-Rock, and I've grown my business. Gary's model is inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. And exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, what a great, that much content. But thank goodness for people and tools. And, and I think that's what AI actually does bring to the table, is that it gives us the ability. Yeah. You and I actually talked about doing a business together to help people do the Gary Vee model. And it was like, the thought process of it was overwhelming.
It really was. And we were at a time technologically, and what was this, only 3 years ago, where it was close to being able to be implemented the way we were talking about it, but we weren't quite there yet. And in many ways, what I'm doing here in Orlando has the Gary Vee get attention model. When he released that 86-page slide deck, and I remember the number, where it was, this is how we take big content and make little content and we become prolific. His model is tried and true for a lot of major influencers. That's what we're doing here.
Yeah, it works. And everybody's like, oh, Alex Hormozi. Well, Alex Hormozi is just Gary Vee with words on the screen.
That's right. Different businesses, their core businesses are different, but there are similarities, actually, now that I say that out loud.
But both of them understand the power of attention.
Yep.
In fact, his new book is called The Day Trading Attention.
Mm-hmm.
There it
goes again. Somebody thumbed it up. It's brilliant.
I don't know what's going on.
Gosh, I hope that was recorded.
Yeah, if not, you and I are hallucinating.
Seeing this, Miller?
I'm literally drinking. I'm drinking out of my thing 2023 cup, but I'm just having water.
Right?
So,
yeah. Oh, I know. And I have Maker's Mark for guests over here. Haven't touched it in months, so I don't know what's going on.
It's not 5:00 yet here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that's the power of like. The great thing about getting people's attention is, man, once you can get someone's attention, what you're able to do with it.
I know.
And Gary taught us. I have a lot of respect for that guy, because he reminds everyone that anyone can really pull it off.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I love the word moxie, and he doesn't tend to use that, but really he's challenging all of us to find our own personal moxie and do something with it.
Yeah, and I've followed him back since he was spinning in a New York Jets cup, drinking wine and tasting it on camera.
Wow, you're more OG than I am. I think I found him in 14 or 15.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following since Crush It came out, and
wow,
and it's been fun to watch the evolution, and really also just like the stripping down to the things that really just matter.
Yeah.
You know, the core things that are super important. And he's obviously ridden, these crazy, the NFT train, which I think is about to come back around again, believe it or not. 'Cause that's what
Yeah, I couldn't wrap my head around that at the time that it was big because I had other fish to fry.
Right, and I think that's sort of I think it was big, and I know people that made millions of dollars off of it when the train was going around the first time.
Yeah.
I also know people who lost millions of dollars.
And that's the hard part with trends like that too, because if and I remember my mother was really into multi-level marketing, basically schemes and scams when I was a kid, and they were always built on something that didn't have intrinsic value. So the value was the hype. And for me, NFTs, until there was a functional value behind it, and it's the same thing with Bitcoin. I'm a little concerned that there's a fiat nature to it that's a little hollow. And I think we've seen that in the market for Bitcoin too.
But I think what's true about all of these things is that Napoleon, that old school, like, a lot of us like to throw MLMs under the bus. But what MLMs do better than any other business is they teach people how to celebrate accomplishments.
Yes, they do.
They use the people closest to the need to sell it.
Yep.
And they understand the power of community.
Absolutely.
And if you're not an MLM and you start using those things, you'd be dangerous. And actually, someone who's done that very, very, very well is Russell Brunson.
Oh, brilliantly so. Absolutely.
Russell Brunson has taken mostly just the good things of MLMs and kind of weaponized them.
Yeah. Well, and so when I was a kid, my mother sold Herbalife, if you remember that product. And, the one nice thing about that was you could sell that more as a store than an MLM, and people felt healthier. And there was a lifestyle that was attached to it that had that there was value there. So the MLM structure was there, but you were selling something of value. And then there's, so many of them that I do pick on because they didn't share that. They didn't have a tangible or intangible product that had actual value. And so you couldn't run it without the MLM because the MLM is the only thing you were actually selling. And that's what always bothered me with the MLM structure.
Yeah, and I think there's some of them that I don't completely understand. I don't understand essential oils because there's a lot of hype there.
Yep.
But like Monet or Monette or however you pronounce it, the hair care product one.
Yep.
I know a lot of girls driving free Cadillacs because of it.
Well, sure, and you've got the Mary Kay products, and you've got the Princess House, the Crystal products. It was an MLM. They talk about their downline and they can grow their team and all this stuff, and it worked great for them because they had real products. I don't know quite how we got onto this, actually. How did we just get here?
I don't know either, but it's an interesting thing that if we all learned the ability to build that kind of community around whatever it is we're selling.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got here. I think the alien thumbs that showed up in our.
I think the alien thumbs have actually been wonderful.
Sent upon us.
It's made me happy today. I love alien thumbs now. I'm just going to do, because we already did the close and then we started reopening, and all of this is going to make the air. I love the whole conversation. None of it's going away, including the Hey Gary Vaynerchuk thing, but I'm going to end more with that. So, hey Gary V, my name is Josh Pies. You don't know me. Love to get to know you, but I'm actually pitching that you talk to my friend Terry, because your team said you were going to come on his show, and to Terry's point, your team's probably changed over. Nobody remembers this. This is your reminder. I can't wait to hear that conversation because you're two really, really cool people that I totally respect. So I'm asking you to do a show for me, but not on my show. And well, I guess you can come on it, but start with Terry because you owe him that conversation. And thank you for doing everything you do on social media because you really are positively affecting guys like us. And we appreciate you. And with that, Terry, and I really meant that message to Gary, and I'm really going to publish that message as an individual standalone for Gary because I think we can do this together.
And honestly, we're kind of taking what MLMs do and using it for good. Where we're saying, what if I rooted for you to win too?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And what if we started really, truly doing that with each other in business?
Yeah.
Even though we may not be connected, Josh and I aren't selling you any oils today.
Nope.
But If anything, we may come out with a sport coat line together.
Now that would be cool. You know, my wife and I were just talking about, she sews, and I think we're going to find a good pattern for shirts, because it gets so hot in Florida that the coat lines don't actually have a shirt line so I can cool down a little bit. But I have a Horton Here's a Who cloth sitting at the house, and I absolutely love that character. And that's going to be a shirt soon. I think maybe we can team up and figure this out.
Yeah, dude. Well, what you need is some Josh Pye's faces on some shirts.
Yeah, I've seen you can get dye sublimation and like put your best friend's face on a shirt and show up at his birthday party and stuff. I've been tempted with some high value targets to go ahead and print their face and logo on a shirt and show up and just not say anything about it.
Yeah.
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 That's a possibility. But anyhow, Terry, my conversations with you truly last never too long, but maybe too long for a listening audience. So I'm going to cut us off here knowing that we can do this again. We can hang out, we can have fun. And let me just end with thanks, man. You know, I enjoy time with you.
Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for having me on the show.
Cool, man. So, hey, Bootstrapped Unicorns is a podcast. Yeah, that's right. It's a podcast for you, entrepreneurs and would-be entrepreneurs. And sometimes you're going to get long, cool conversations that meander a little bit but have full value. Go back through this episode and find all the URLs that Terry name dropped, or go into the show notes and find them. And make sure you avail yourself to some or all of what he's offering. You will be better for it. Also, come back to other episodes of ours. Listen to past episodes. I think this is episode 21 or 22 in our podcast history. But the whole existence of this show is to help you grow. And if you notice, we're not hard selling my services or products or anything. I really actually care about the journey of entrepreneurship, and it means I care about your journey of entrepreneurship. So just make sure you like, subscribe, follow, do what you got to do to get in our world. We want you here because we want you to grow. See you on the next episode.